I thought this video was going to be about making a game, but while writing it, I realized it really isn't. It's about making decisions. Because a few months ago, the game didn't exist. There was no release, no leaderboard, no roadmap, just a Unity project, and way too many ideas. Looking back at it now, the distance between that empty project and the released game wasn't measured in code or the visuals, it was measured in choices, in things that stayed, and even more importantly, in things that didn't. When I started, there wasn't a roadmap or a perfect plan, just one small idea that felt interesting enough to explore. First day I had that idea wasn't a mechanic, it was a feeling. I wanted players to make constant decisions. Should I go this way or the other way? Should I take a risk or should I play it safe? These questions quietly influenced every decision I made afterwards. Looking back, I think I underestimated it somehow. Products usually don't begin with dozens of features, they begin with one idea that's strong enough to survive months of iteration. One thing I've realized is that projects almost never begin the way they end. At least this one didn't. When I created the Unity project, I wasn't thinking about publishing a game. I wasn't thinking about analytics, leaderboards, or even the Play Store. I was just following an idea that I thought was interesting enough to spend the weekend on. The weekend slowly turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and somewhere along the way, a small experiment quietly became a real product. I don't think that happened because I had a great plan. I think that happened because I kept coming back to the same question: what am I actually trying to make people feel? Once I could do that, every decision became a little easier. And honestly, I think that's how most meaningful projects begin. This was the first playable version. And honestly, I remember thinking, this is actually going somewhere. Looking at it now, it's rough. Placeholder art, no animations, no visual effects, no UI. Probably a few decisions I'd never make today. But that's exactly what a prototype is supposed to be. It isn't there to impress anyone, it's there to answer one question: is this idea worth spending more time on? And for me, the answer was yes. I think every creator should keep these versions because progress is supposed to look upward. The first version isn't there to impress anyone, it's there to give you something to improve. Somewhere along the way, the experiment started feeling like an actual game. Stayed, it's actually pretty simple. You run, you switch between two zones, you avoid obstacles, you manage your energy, and that's it. But underneath those mechanics is one idea I kept coming back to. Every few seconds, the player should have to make a decision. Once I understood that, building became much easier. Every new feature had to answer one question: does this make those decisions more interesting? If it didn't, it probably didn't belong. Okay, so this was probably the biggest lesson of the entire project. Not building it, finishing it. Because once the game actually started feeling fun, I suddenly had 100 new ideas. Story mode, multiplayer, achievements, daily rewards, characters, progressions, challenges, live ops, all of these. Honestly, none of them were bad ideas. That's what made it difficult. Multiplayer sounded exciting. A progression system made sense. Daily rewards, achievements, shops, cosmetics. Every single one felt like something the game could eventually have. But I was building this alone. Every feature wasn't just another idea, it was another few days, a few weeks, more design, more testing, more things to maintain. And that's when I realized I had been asking the wrong question. Not would this be cool, but what problem does this actually solve? And sometimes even a better question: if I remove this, would anyone actually miss it? The answer was often no, surprisingly, because one feature almost never comes alone. A shop needs currency, currency needs progression, progression needs rewards, rewards needs balancing, and one small idea becomes 5 different systems. That's when I stopped thinking about features and started thinking about focus. Good ideas actually don't kill projects overnight, but they do it one reasonable decision at a time for sure. Well, there's one part of every project that nobody really talks about, the weeks where nothing seems to move. Sometimes I'd open the project, look around for a few minutes, and close it again. Not because I've run out of ideas, but because I wasn't sure which idea was actually worth building. And sometimes just life got in the way. To be honest, I don't think those slower weeks were wasted. They usually gave me enough distance to come back with a clearer perspective, and sometimes the best progress isn't adding something new, it's just understanding what doesn't need to be added. Somewhere during the development phase, I noticed the questions I was asking had completely changed. I wasn't just asking, is this fun anymore? I started asking, will this work tomorrow? Can I maintain this 6 months from now? What happens if something goes wrong? All the other edge cases. That's when I realized I wasn't just building a game anymore, I was building a product, which meant thinking about things players rarely notice: analytics, crashes, ANRs, reportings, leaderboards, cloud save, performance, store pages, everything else from a product standpoint. None of these features make the game more exciting, but they make the experience more reliable, and that is something I've come to appreciate. Good products aren't only defined by what users see, they're also defined by everything quietly working in the background. Somewhere along the line, I stopped adding new features. I started improving the ones that are already there. I used to think polish meant making things look better, but now I think polish is about making things feel effortless. A clear button, better feedback, smoother animation, simpler menu, a tutorial that gets out of the way. None of those changes are particularly exciting on their own, but altogether, they make the product easier to trust. Players rarely stop and say, hey, that button felt great. They just move through the experience without thinking about it. And I think that's what good polish really is, removing a little moments of friction before players even notice them. Eventually, every project reaches the same point. You can keep improving it forever, try to make it perfect as it is in your head, or you can let people experience it. Releasing something is uncomfortable for sure, because until then you are always building a version that exists in your head. The moment it's public, that version disappears. People don't experience your intentions, they experience what's actually there. And as uncomfortable as that is, it's also where the real learning begins. Stay Ahead taught me something I wasn't expecting. Not about Unity, not about game development, but about building things. Every feature has a cost, every system creates responsibility, and every decision quietly shapes everything that comes after it. I think we spend a lot of time asking ourselves, what else can I add? Where the more important question is, what deserves to stay? Looking back, I don't think finishing this game happened because I had the best ideas. It happened because I learned which ideas to let go of. Well, there are still plenty of features I love to build. Some of them probably will make it, some of them won't, and to be honest, I'm okay with that. Because somewhere between an empty Unity project and the game on the Play Store, I realized that building isn't just about creating something new, it's about protecting what already makes the idea worth building. And I'm just glad that the game exists, because finishing something teaches you lessons that planning never can.